Namaste and welcome to a new series from the ancient scriptures. This one is reading from the essence of Ashtavakra Gita. Happy Navratri and Guru Kripa Kevalam. During these auspicious days of Navratri, where the universal cosmic consciousness or Mother Goddess is worshipped in 9 forms, it came as a dual blessing from the Divine Mother as well as my Sadguru Ananta to commence reading this pure, powerful and potent scripture, the Ashtavakra Gita. Last year, around the same time, I had started reading Vasishta's Yoga, which was also taken up with the blessings, direction and instruction of my Gurudev. And this year, it is my great fortune that again, by the will and instruction of my Gurudev and with his blessings and grace, that I begin to read and offer the recordings of this powerful scripture to anyone who wishes to hear these nectarian and bliss-filled pointings to the supreme truth. To be honest, the reading of excerpts from Vasishta's Yoga, which went on, I think for a year, it was a year, turned out to be a big blessing for me, the reader, as I delved deeper into its beautiful stories, anecdotes, verses, metaphors, pointings. Each reading unfolded vistas of clearer and clearer seeing of what up until then was not as clear. So the greatest beneficiary has been this being itself, and if anyone else has enjoyed it, then that's the icing on the cake. Before I start, having offered my obeisance to the Divine Mother and my Sadguru, naman and prayers to my parents, whose blessings have led me to this point and continue to be showered on me for all time. Deep veneration to all the Gurus, including sage Ashtavakra and King Janaka, and all the disciples from the beginning of time who have strived to teach, to learn, and to pass on the pointings that lead to ultimate truth. With this prayerful remembrance and expression of gratitude to all that walk on the path of self-knowledge, the great lovers and devotees of truth, I now jump straight into a short introduction to the background and context of the Ashtavakra Gita. The Ashtavakra Gita is a short treatise ascribed to the great sage Ashtavakra. Very little is definitely known about this sage. His name literally means 8 bends or twists. Ashta means 8 and Vakra means crooked or with a twist, indicating the 8 deformities in his limbs that he was born with. The Ashtavakra Gita is an ancient spiritual document of great purity and power. Purity because it is relentlessly one-pointed. Every word is aimed at triggering self-realization. No suggestions for self-improvement, no rules for moral behavior, no practical wisdom for daily life is offered. And powerful because the mere reading or repeated reading of it can be enough to send a ripe mind reeling into the truth. The Ashtavakra Gita is a classic dialogue between Guru and disciple, in this case sage Ashtavakra and King Janaka. It quickly becomes a dialogue between gurus, because after the first salvo of wisdom from sage Ashtavakra, King Janaka realizes his true self, and from then on, they get into a back and forth session of the highest wisdom. King Janaka was perhaps ripe for realization when he met his guru, and that perhaps explains why the Ashtavakra Gita is just a short treatise of 200 odd verses as opposed to expansive tomes that most spiritual texts are. This is a text which cannot be understood through intellectual brilliance or by mere scholarship. It can only be understood through the heart by an intuitive spiritual experience. Out of the total 298 stanzas, almost each one of them is an independent, standalone, bliss capsule of sorts that is worthy of immersive contemplation, complete and concise by itself, and fully capable of taking one to the ultimate realization of the truth. And now a little context to the King Janaka himself. Unlike the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna imparts the ultimate truth to Arjuna, who is in a state of confusion, despondence, and depression, King Janaka is in a more stable and mature frame of mind, more of a devotee and a seeker. He is a king and has been longing for enlightenment. By inviting sages and liberated beings to his court and seeking their knowledge and wisdom for years, King Janaka has ceaselessly sought self-knowledge and the benevolent grace of a guru or master. So in the course of time, eventually, King Janaka meets sage Ashtavakra. Different stories tell varied versions of how it all unfolded, but all of them suggest that there was not much discourse. Ashtavakra tells Janaka, "You cannot get enlightened here in your court, so come with me, king." And off they go, King Janaka and Ashtavakra, into the forest. Once they are alone in the forest, sage Ashtavakra adds, "Enlightenment only comes from a guru to a disciple, so you must become my disciple, O king." King Janaka's response to that is immediate. Though sage Ashtavakra is a little more than is a lad actually of 12 years or so, with a wisdom that is beyond his years, and King Janaka is fairly older and an accomplished king, yet the king readily agrees and bows down to Ashtavakra and pays obeisance to his newly found guru without hesitation or delay. Next, Ashtavakra tells him that as his disciple, Janaka must drop his kingship, wealth, and all previous identities. Again, King Janaka obeys instantaneously. In this act and ability to drop his entire identity, in a moment of pure surrender to his young guru, lies the secret to Janaka's instant enlightenment. It is worth noting that King Janaka was already known as the most detached person. He was the most powerful king of the time, and he had freedom, resources, and power to do anything he wanted to do. But still, he wanted to know from a liberated being how to find detachment, wisdom, and freedom. You can own the whole world and still may not be free. So that is the note on the background to King Janaka at the time of his enlightenment. A little bit about the version of the text that I will be reading. Many commentaries and versions exist on the Ashtavakra Gita. I have chosen the excellent and very concise translation by Bart Marshall, recommended by my Gurudev, and it holds a special place in my heart as this was the version that I heard read many years ago by my Gurudev when I first heard about the scripture. Up until then, I was clueless about any and all scriptures, and since then, much has been learnt at the feet of my Sadguru and from the brothers and sisters in my Sangha, the Sangha that Ananta under the benevolent guidance of Sri Muji Baba shepherds and leads into the light of clear seeing. With that, I'm closing this short intro on Ashtavakra Gita and look forward to commencing the reading of this auspicious text from tomorrow. Please join me if there is a pull to hear the pointings of another great sage, Sage Ashtavakra. Happy Navratri and Jai Gurudev.